back again for part 6. Got some more data. Was just going to do another auto-tune session, and I had the benefit of the entire application basically downloading and self-installing a new version. It took about 3 restarts, 2 logins, 2 accepting their license agreements. I even did the amusing thing of actually reading the license agreement, which basically says, yeah, you're not allowed to use the software at all under any circumstances for any purpose. So they kind of got their ass covered there. Um, but yeah, it was kind of amusing. All the things they exclude, it basically says, well, you just can't use it at all. But anyway, I even had a scary moment where one of the intermediate versions that it decided to download wouldn't actually recognize my bin file. But regardless, it's now up and loaded. And regarding bin files, what I do want to do is one of the things that happened. So when I started, I was bin file 21. And there's a bit of confusion about this, and this is sort of part and parcel with how annoying much of the people in this industry can be. The annoying aspect is that they're not very open. And so, I've got the 2023 model. This is the part number that was in it. Now, there's a big discussion about recall versions and whatnot. And it's sort of quite interesting because which version's which, no one really, there's no sort of documentation about them. You've just sort of got this rough information here. It's not like, if I go and pull out the ECU, it will actually physically have this 21 number on it. This 22 one came out, and the individual uh, who was responsible for it. I'll probably get this wrong, but yes, it turns out the truth is someone was talking about this 2022 version in reference to recalls. And the reality is there's a recall in Canada at the moment, but there's no recall anywhere else. But because there was a recall back in 21 or early 22, um, for the ECU, every time someone in late 2023 talks about recalls, people refer to the old one, which is just infuriating because, well, that's done and dusted. But from what I understand, after asking for clarification, and I actually asked for clarification from Woolich as well, and Woolich said, someone sent them this, and that this was a post-recall version. Then the person who actually sent it to them said, no, 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 22 is not a post-recall version. It is actually a completely new ECU part number that Yamaha has issued from mid 23 onwards on their brand new bikes, because it was that individual who actually bought the new bike and had sent the ECU to Woolwich. So he knew exactly what it was. So yeah, my bike is a 21, but I have actually been programming it to the 2022 map, or sorry, to this 22 version map. There's only one minor difference, and ultimately the bike is identical. And yeah, it's sort of been quite happy to do that. Preemptively, I jumped to the 22 one in case that just happens to be the same version that is in use in the Canadian recall and would probably later be applied to recalls when they end up, in the rest of the world. So hey, why not just get a jump start on it? So yeah, I thought I'd mention that. The next part is, actually I'll just cancel out of that and I'll just go back to opening my file. Just get a fresh open. And all I'm going to do is the auto tune from this morning's ride. Went out, had to scrub in a fresh back tire. Now this one's going to be pretty simple. I've already downloaded the log files. I've already run them through my thing. Well, actually, one of the things I did with the new version of the software downloading was I thought, oh, I got optimistic and thought they'd fix the bug, but they hadn't. So I sort of pulled up the the data here, had a look at the value that they've got, and they're displaying in their live data and in the data viewer, and it's like, no, 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 it's still the same. They haven't fixed it. Anyway, so going to open these files. An easy way to tell if they do fix it is just if I suddenly start getting a huge gap in the data and it doesn't start until up here, then I know that it has. Oh, actually, that was one of the other things, and that prompted me to actually make the video, and I completely forgot about it. If I look at the percentage map change, it is looking at doing a 9% change, 9% change, 9% change. I'm like, hang on a minute, I've got it set to a maximum of 6. So how come it's doing 9? And that was one of the things that they did, was that they just bodged all of the settings. So all the settings are gone. Look, neutral filter's gone, clutch end's gone. Oops, apologies. Yeah, deceleration filter's gone. Smoothing strength, I think I had that down at 5. That's the thing, I have no idea what I had it at. I know I had this at 11. Let's see, can't remember what I had. Auto-tune strength, I think I had that at 70. Maximum percentage change, I had that at 6. So yeah, I've had to go back and do that. I had to do all the, so this one here, you've got to tell it how far away your O2 sensor is, because, well, there's a lag between the different log sort of records. The AFR record doesn't directly match with the record it's logged at, because, well, it takes time for the fuel to go in, the ignition to happen, and the exhaust to actually flow down. Regardless, so yeah, I had to go and put these settings back in. Let's see, did I do that before I move on? Yes. Yeah. Oh, I also did a test to see if I could get power mode in the log file, but yeah, Yamaha just, well, it just did not show up at all. Let's just see all of that. Don't think I have to worry about that. Oh, actually, that could be handy. Compare bin file, current bin file. I have to figure out how to use that. Although it is handy to see how far you get from stock, but when I really lock one in, I suppose I'll make that the change. Sorry, the base one. Anyway, so yeah, I needed to set that. Let's come back again, open the log files, and let's see. Hopefully, it won't be trying to adjust it by 10%. So yeah, maximum 6%. So obviously, yeah, some of those filters and that could have all been in the deceleration areas and whatnot. So yeah, you've got to pay attention. If I wasn't paying attention on it updating, I wouldn't have known that the settings had been wiped. So that's something to be quite cautious of. It would have done a lot of updates that I never actually wanted applied. So and this here is, yeah, extreme engine braking. Actually, I should probably I think I'll put in another filter to take that out. And so let's see. Go to the Autotune map just to see what the values would be. So yeah, because that's pretty dramatic change. Let's have a look at the 3D graph. So that's what it was. That's what it is. Not really comfortable with some of these changes, because that is actually leaning it out quite a lot, particularly at these higher revs. Well, not really. Oh yeah, I suppose it is, relatively speaking. Yeah, let's see. So if we come back to that, we're talking, I suppose we are talking this area here. How many data records have we got? Not many, not many, not many. I'm going to go back to the settings. I'm going to change this up, minimum cell data logs. Let's put this back to 10. Well, not back to 10, let's put it up to 10 and see what we get. And it's just completely taken them out. And that is, yeah, a lot of engine braking. I won't actually mess with this. So I'll copy it up to 60.7. So if I go this, okay, it's trying to load. Come on, hurry up. What is it trying to do? It's mixed up. Yeah, so I think I'll leave it at just there, because the other thing, I do have it set up for the popping and stuff, which would actually potentially fall into a couple of zones here. Probably not down here. But regardless, here I might actually add a filtering section for that. So anyway, I selected this from this top corner, so that's where I'll paste it in on the fuel map. So if I go fuel map, IAP, and yeah, let's have a look at what we have overall. Is, yeah, it's not that dramatic, relatively speaking. So anyway, I'm gonna okay that, just open it up fresh because I presume that's sort of locked in. Okay, go to TPS. Over here we'll go to TPS. Okay, it's got a few records there. That's been a bit lean, so it's trying to rich it out. Okay, so I think, just have a look at the graph and we'll see where we were. I don't know, you got to trust it. This is where it's sort of a bit quirky. And it's interesting that, yeah, some of these are actually, like this whole area here is actually going up higher. This whole area here is going up higher. Part of this maybe is just not going anywhere. So for the moment, I'll actually, I think 7,075. I think what I'll do is I'll actually just grab, I'll just grab it up to probably, yeah, 7,000, and I'll leave these ones out. I'm sort of happy for it to be a bit rich rather than risk having it lean out. So especially given they're quite dramatic changes. Okay, so we have the fuel map. I grabbed it from the corner on TPS. Okay, let's have a look at our graph. Yeah, it does have a hole in it there. It's at 42, 7.5. So 42. Let's see what we've got percentage wise. That one. Yeah, I'm going to take that out, or at least I'll make this -5. Well, actually, set -5. I'll set this to -5. And yeah, that spot's not as bad. Okay, another change I made was with respect to the throttle valve maps. So if we have a look at these, so for mode 1, if we have a look at third, because I didn't touch this, you can see it's quite sort of very sharp. It's got its little dip there, and yeah, it's got a very sort of significant inset there. So if I go to 4, I made a slight change on that, so I sort of smoothed it out, made it a lot smoother. And yeah, if I go back to this one, so it's sort of, you open the, even if you crank the throttle all the way up, you say you're down here, you're sort of cruising. What do we got? We're at, you know, okay, let's say we're at, yeah, 3000 RPM, and you just crack the throttle open 100%. So you'd be down here, you crack the throttle open 100%, and it's really just going to put you here, and then you're going to wait until the revs go, and you're going to wait a bit more, and wait a bit more, and wait a bit more, and then you're going to get your rush. And it's like, what on earth are you doing? You know, this is mode 1, and it just, so this is why suddenly you get that whoosh, and everyone goes, oh, it's got so much, you know, you don't get anything until you get to the higher revs. That's because you're not, it's not giving you any throttle until you get to 5,500 RPM. Um, so that's probably all right in the lower gears, because you know you ended up wheeling it or whatever. But in the higher gears, there's sort of no reason to be that restrictive. So um, so for gear 4, I sort of smoothed out this bit here. Gear 5 even more so, and gear 6 I think is the same as gear 5. Oh no, gear 6 I let it just, yeah, gave a little bit more on the rev limiter. So I just backfilled this bit at the back, you can see. But went out and riding this, yeah, it's very smooth. You crack the throttle open in 5th and 6th gear from about 80 kilometers an hour, and you just hold it wide open, and it's so much more smoother the way the power comes on. So, you know, you're not actually, the flow isn't this, and the flow isn't this. It's actually the combination. The flow is this direction, because of course you are accelerating, and as you accelerate, even though you've got 100% throttle, or you sort of wind it on, you know, this is your smoothness. As you open it up more and more and more, it'll come this way. Yes, you can crack it right open, and that just sends it all the way up here for it to go along this way. But yeah, it's not really. Yeah, how do you put it? It is what it is. How did I do that in the woolich stuff? Well, I didn't. So what I did do, I copied the relevant section into Excel, and I spent a very tedious amount of time graphing it uh, graphing it this way. Well, graphing it two ways. So one is per chart. So effectively, this is uh, each of these vertically relative to the throttle position sensor. So if I go, uh, oh, this might be third gear. Can't remember. Um, so ultimately, this one here is the 4,000 RPM band. This one here is 6,500 RPM band. So in here, that is the equivalent of this one, 6,500. So that is this flow and how smooth that is. All right. But the other graph is actually this one. So it's how much. So that's the thing. I've graphed both of these axes. So yeah, this one here is coming from low throttle position to high throttle position, and this one here is going from low revs to high revs. And what I was doing was just basically making, oh, and previously the original ones is this just very much chopped in here and then went up, and it was really ragged. So I just made this a lot smoother. Of course, this is fourth gear. Yeah. Um, so these are the adjustments to fourth gear, and yeah. So and I smoothed this out too. I sort of put in the trend line, worked out the formula for it, um, and just so I could get a feel for what I was looking at. And yeah, came in and made sure that any sort of dips that were in it this way were removed. Came here, reduced this quite a lot, and at the end came out with sort of a nice balanced and much smoother. Which of course you can see here. If you go from that to that, this one's very sharp angled, and yeah, it's got this dip in it here at 10,000 RPM before it gives you full throttle. So yeah, that's a sort of a big part of it. Now, but of course you come to this, and yeah, it's a lot smoother in each direction. And yeah, as per usual, I'm not sort of mucking around with how it is down here. Yeah. Now another thing is my um, O2 sensor delete didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to. I think the trick is going to be when I pull the wideband O2 sensor out and I'll stick the stock one back in. I've got some plugs on order, some connectors on order, so I'll actually wire up one where I can hook up a meter to the output and actually have a look at what the stock O2 sensor is actually outputting, so I can generate a more consistent input that the ECU is sort of happy with. I took a wild guess at the half mark, the half voltage mark, and aimed for that, but I'm not quite sure that that was necessarily correct. So, and of course it's passive components, so I might actually have to put some active components in or make it adjustable. When I say active, I mean stick a voltage regulator in there, so I've got a controlled value that I then divide rather than just divide by the battery alternator voltage, which can, yeah, potentially fluctuate. The other thing too is that these are the first few maps that I've done after identifying the bug in the ETV. And the first logs I applied in the last video, they were actually just from basically freeway riding. So there wasn't much there. It was just sort of fifth and sixth gear, cruising at highway speeds. So yeah, today's ones were sort of the more of the first logs that actually involved twisties riding. I'll have to collect a few more of those and hopefully flesh that out. Anyway, that's it. And yep, I'll close all this up and save that file off. Yes, I want to save it. So I'm going to do that. And so got now we want to commit it. And yeah. So V7 auto-tune calculated. And we are right to go. Okay, thanks a lot. And yeah, I suppose these, oh, actually, I'll edit them in later. But I do have some footage of how the wideband sensor is installed. So yeah, it'd be good to get that.